Hey everybody, this is going to be the first video in a new series that we're going to be doing where we look at the basics of the game to help new players and players who may have been gone for so long that they hardly remember anything. Today we're going to go over the races of Norath, and we will be going into their race, alignment, starting cities, location relative to the two main hubs of High Pass and Freeport. We're going to look at the male and female models, go in and look at the classes that they are allowed to play, and we won't go into the specific classes in this video. We will save that for another video, and we will, put any special notices about that race also. So let's get started with the Barbarians. The Barbarians are a good aligned race. Their starting city is Hallis. It is pretty easy to navigate for a new player. The only issue with it is that it's on the most northern point on the map in a icy area, and it's kind of isolated away from the main hub zones. So at a low level you may have some difficulty getting to the other coaches without Invis or Sal or somebody helping you make that run. Let's take a look at the models. We've been looking at the male model. Let's take a look at the female model. They can be rogues, shamans, and warriors. I actually asked a buddy once, how can they be rogues? They don't seem very stealthy. And his response was, well, where a halfling may walk up and take something out of your pocket, a barbarian rogue pushes you down and takes your lunch money. Next, we have the Dark Elves. The Dark Elves are evil aligned. They start in a starting city called Narek, and Narek is a little bit north of Freeport and Booble Bywater on the east coast. Let's take a look at the models. You have the male model here and the female model. Their starting city isn't bad. It's pretty compact. It's not small. When I say compact, I just mean all of the NPCs are pretty tightly pushed together. They can be alchemists, clerics, enchanters, magicians, necromancers, rogues, shadow knights, warriors, and wizards. Next we have the Dwarves. Dwarves are good aligned. Their starting city is Mord, and it is a little bit south of Hallis, so it's in the more northern part of the map. It's not a bad city, but out of all the cities, it is my personal least favorite because it's very tight for camera angles, and a lot of the NPCs that you need for quests are maybe in the corner of a room or something, and it's kind of it can get a little bit irritating trying to navigate. Let's take a look at the male and female models here. Dwarves can be clerics, paladins, rogues, and warriors. Now we're going to take a look at the elves. The elves are good aligned. Their starting city is Facespires and Tethlin. They have two starting cities, depending on the class that you pick. The more nature-related classes are going to start in Teth. The more caster and arcane are going to start in Fae. Eventually, in the lore, they turn into high elves, wood elves, that sort of thing. Their starting city is a bit east of Mord, still kind of northerly, but it's past the mountains of Mord, which make it a little bit of an easier run to get to the main hubs of Freeport and High Pass. So we've been looking at the male model. Let's take a look at the female model. Elves can be alchemists, bards, clerics, druids, enchanters, magicians, paladins, rangers, rogues, and wizards. Again, remember, picking a class as a elf will put you in one of 2 starting cities. Not all in the same starting city. So if you're starting a character with a friend, you will be in a different starting city than them, but they're not that far apart. Next, we have the Erudites. Erudites are a good and evil aligned city, depending on the class that you pick. Their starting city is called Highborn, and it is in the most southwestern part of the map. Like Hallis, it is probably one of the more difficult ones to get to other areas, but the good thing with Erudites is they do have access to a dockmaster to get them on a boat to go to Freeport. I'm going to take a look at the models. Erudites can be alchemists, clerics, enchanters, magicians, necromancers, paladins, shadow knights, and wizards. If you pick Shadow Knight or Necromancer, you will be evil aligned. Everything else is good aligned. Gnomes. Gnomes are a good and evil kind of neutral race. They can get away, they can get a few more coaches than normal, playing at more neutral classes, but they do have evil classes as well, so we'll take a look at that. Their starting city is Clickanon. Click is in the most northeasternly part of the map, and it isn't that difficult of a run south to get to Freeport, and then west to get to High Pass. It's fairly easy run. Let's take a look at the models. You have male and female. Gnomes can be alchemists, clerics, enchanters, magicians, necromancers, rogues, warriors, and wizards. If you pick necromancer, you will be evil aligned. Next, we have the Halflings. Halflings are a good aligned race, and they start off in a city called Rivervale. They are somewhat isolated. They are a bit of a tricky run to get other places, just because of the mob density around their starting zones. But it's, I'd say, medium difficulty to get out of there at a low level. Let's take a look at their models. You have male and female. They can be clerics, druids, rogues, and warriors. Next, we have Eastern humans. These are humans that start in Freeport. They are good and evil aligned, and again, somewhat neutral aligned, kind of like the Gnomes. Let's go ahead and take a look at their male model and their female model. This city is probably my favorite. Everything feels spread out enough, but not too spread out. And it is, being a neutral city and a lower level neutral city, it's where a lot of people gather. These can be alchemists, bards, clerics, enchanters, magicians, necromancers, rogues, shadow knights, warriors, and wizards. As a warrior, this was my main. You can get to places like Booble by Water, Face Spires, things like that. There's going to be a few coaches that you may have to get a bit of reputation to unlock. But the necromancers and shadow knights are pure evil. So they are more... They're probably the most neutral race in the game. Western humans are good aligned, unlike their Eastern counterparts. They start on about the middle of the western coast of the map, running to High Pass and Darwin Manor, and then to Freeport is fairly simple for them. I'd put that on more of an easy scale as long as you stick to the roads. Their starting city is very similar to Freeport. I just personally prefer Freeport. It's just a personal preference, I guess. The other thing to consider with these Western humans is if you pick the monk class, you do not start off in the city. You start off in a monastery just outside of the city, a bit south. If you pick ranger and I believe druid, you start off in a zone a bit to the northeast called Surefall. And then whenever you're ready to go to the main city of Queens, or that's the main city of the Western humans, you have to go a bit southeast. So just keep that in mind when picking your class for a Western human. Let's take a look at the models. We have the male model, and we have the female model. Alright. They can be alchemists, bards, clerics, druids, enchanters, magicians, monks, paladins, rangers, rogues, warriors, and wizards. Again, make sure that if you pick monk, you know that you're starting in a monastery just a little bit south out of town. If you pick ranger or druid, you are starting in Surefall Glade, a completely different zone a bit to the northeast. Alright, next on the list we have ogres. Ogres start in a city called Aguk, and Aguk was not in the base EverQuest Online Adventures, was added with the launch of the Frontiers expansion, and it is technically a bit south of Grob, which is the troll starting city, and we could say that it's about as far south as you can go, about in the middle of the map. Again, if you're thinking of Hallis, like we said with Highborn, it's probably in the polar opposite of Hallis, so it's in the middle south. Getting to Freeport is a bit more difficult with an ogre or a troll, really, just because of the different paths that you can take, and the mobs are a bit high level trying to get there, so you may need invisibility or a friend helping you to get there. It's not impossible, I'm just saying it's a bit higher difficulty. Let's take a look at the models. You have the male model and the female model. Okay. They can be necromancers, shadow knights, shamans, and warriors. Last, we have the Trolls. The Trolls start in a starting city called Grob. Grob is just like Agok. It is in the most southern part of the map. I would say roughly in the middle southern. Their starting city is basically a few small camps in a city. A bit spread out. It feels a bit barren. Everything is much more spread out, and the characters aren't necessarily as compact. It's a pretty easy starting city to get familiar with. Just like I was saying with the Ogres, though, getting to the more populated areas can be a little bit more difficult if you're doing it on foot. If we go back to Ogres for just a quick second, I want to say they also get a teleport to Narek, where I don't think Trolls do. So let's look at the Troll male and female models. Trolls can be Shadow Knights, Shamans, and Warriors. And this is all of the playable races in EverQuest Online Adventures. There are tons of different race and class combinations to try out and to play with. So definitely get a feel for what your playstyle is, and then, you know, play with a few different classes within that playstyle. If you find your playstyle is tank, you know, play around with your warriors and your shadow knights and your shamans. I mean, your warriors, your shadow knights, and your paladins. And then play some different races, because different races are going to give you different bonuses. Starting stat bonuses, racial class masteries. You know, if you want to min-max, there will be some other videos for that, but play around with it, get a feel for how you want your coaches to work. Do you like the evil coaches? Do you like the good coaches? And the coaches are basically the teleports between cities, and good aligned one get some, and evil aligned get others. Okay, everybody, I hope you found that helpful. Again, we will be doing more videos like this where we go into each class specifically. We will do walkthroughs of the starting cities. We will do maybe some of the intro questing to get a feel for how quests work, go through some of the settings, go through the different stats and what they mean and how they're used, things like that. So be on the lookout for those videos if you are interested in learning more about EQOA. Thank you very much. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and y'all have a wonderful day.